5 years ago, there was a movement called Gamergate, in which case we discussed a lot about ethics and video game journalism. A lot of it because there were the absolute insane, crazy assumptions, the crazy assertions, the beliefs based on nothing more than fear and hyperbole that gaming causes violence, that gaming causes misogyny, and gaming causes sexism. We know those things to fundamentally not be true. Time and time and time again, people have created cottage industries for turning on a product and trying to say that it's bad for you as a way to completely support their argument for either shutting it down, deplatforming it, or just coming out as some kind of moral arbiter towards it. And that's what we're seeing now with the Joker movie, right? Because when the media doesn't want to actually tackle real world problems like climate change or the upcoming potential recession or everything else that's happening in different countries, not just this one, they want to focus on a movies being a bad thing. And I wish I was kidding you. The term my friend came up with was Joker derangement syndrome. I talked about it over on 3 Buck Theater, saying that it's absolutely real, and I wanted to talk about it over here because I found a case of it being absolutely real. This is a non-ironic article. Look at the title of this. Joker is a dangerous film, and it's bringing out the worst in the internet by Kathleen Newman Bermang, written today, actually. But she says here, this is legit. This is true. Joker is a dangerous film. Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's find out more. Let's find out more. So Joker had its North American premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on Monday. In the days since, things have been coming in, or the takes have been coming in hot. On Twitter, the reaction seems to fall in two camps. It's either a near perfect masterpiece, or it's a dangerous manifesto for radical and lonely white men who may look to Arthur Fleck's deranged descent into Joker of comic book lore as heroic instead of villainous. For one, everyone knows that the Joker is a villain. This movie was pegged as being a villainous character study. That's what it is. To showcase what could drive a person to the villainous acts that someone like the Joker might do. It is fiction. It's an extreme. It's not real. It is over the top for effect. And only real crazy mofos, like someone who would write an article saying that it's a dangerous movie, believe that could actually happen in real life. No one is going to spray paint. No one's going to... No, because I can't say it because someone's going to bring up the whole James Holmes thing. So he dressed up as a Joker and shoot up a movie theater. But that wasn't because of the movie. That was because the dude was insane. And even look, there's the thing. Even psychologists, when it comes to James Holmes, who've spent time with him, cannot determine why he did what he did. That secret is locked in his mind and his mind alone. Okay, so just to give you an idea that you can't sit there and use that as an actual argument because it doesn't exist. Now, there are, I think, might be some light spoilers just as a thing. So just so we're clear, it's like real light, but I'm letting you know. The reality is that the film and most of its thoughtful critiques fall somewhere in between. Joker is an impressive cinematic achievement featuring an extraordinary performance by Joaquin Phoenix as Fleck. And it's a poisonous story for a fraught time. Do we really need a brutal movie about a white terrorist figure who uses a gun to enact revenge on society that rejects him? And do we need it now? I don't know. Do we need a lot of movies portraying Muslims or brown people as terrorists from the Middle East? Because we get that all the time, and not everyone from the Middle East is a terrorist. So, where's your argument for them? Huh? Where's your argument for them? Where's your argument for them? The people that needlessly die in those countries and then get portrayed as being terrorists and they come over here to get jobs as actors. Why? Where's your arguments for them? But no, the Joker, that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is. Anyway, I'm being hyperbolic for effect, by the way. Now, she says here that I think the answer to that question is no. Ultimately, Joker is a story that empathizes with a violent sociopath. Fleck is a clown by hire and an aspiring comedian living with his mother. The most ironic and tragic cruelty of his life is he has a condition that causes him to laugh maniacally at inappropriate times. He's bullied and beaten up by a group of kids on the street, his coworkers, and some rich suits on the subway, and the film uses these encounters to explain his murderous origins. Joker is the anti-hero the alienated and angry have been waiting for, and that's precisely the problem, writes Sarah Hagee in a column for the Globe and Mail, saying, I do yawn at the idea of another story in which white men are offered a sort of understanding for their violence. And again, see, that's the whole thing right there is this is a character study that does star a white actor. Again, it's so stupid to make these arguments because they don't really hold a lot of weight, right? She's worried about what could happen as a result. The Dark Knight Rises came out, James Holmes did his thing, and there wasn't copycat shooters from that. It doesn't exist. Joker derangement syndrome is now a real thing. Like, it's holy crap. It's a holy crap. Now, she goes on to say that is exactly why I couldn't enjoy the film, even though I do concede it's really well done. The message that, well, of course he's become a mass murderer, society gave him no choice, is dangerous on its own. But if you consider the larger social context of turning a supervillain into a kind of folk hero in a world where Dylan Roof, Elliot Rodger, and Fazail Hussein exists, it's even more distressing. But they do this all the time. Look at informative murder porn. Look at IDTV. They do nothing but tell stories of murder, tragedy, and chaos. And they do it all the time. And they treat it in a way that's more of like a, I don't want to say a folksy documentary. It's not always hard hitting, but sometimes it is churched up a little bit in order to make it seem more appealing. This is the nature of entertainment. Ultimately, that's what this is. This is entertainment. And we've been seeing more and more people. If you're talking about this influencing people, by the way, we've seen more and more people recently paying close attention to people in their lives. And they've been turning them in if they feel that there's anything violent that could be potentially happening. And guess what? They're getting caught. So a movie like this may actually stop murder. And I'm using this as a far off extreme example, just as a counter to what she's trying to say here, by the way. I just want to make that abundantly clear. But this movie could prompt someone to pay attention to someone in their life who might be showing antisocial behaviors, who might be stockpiling weaponry, and maybe wanting to go off and do some kind of crazy act, and then get them to turn that person in because, oh, wait, I saw the Joker. I saw some stuff that they might be paying attention to, and it worried me. Let me just make sure there's a wellness check. Have you ever thought about that angle? You ever thought about that potentially it could be saving lives as well by drawing attention to it through a pop culture lens that more people are going to pay attention to rather than just the endless coverage of these events online or on the news and the media? Have you ever thought about that? You ever think about that from that perspective? Of course not, because that doesn't sell pay-per-clicks or doesn't do ads, whatever. Anyway, in response to her piece, Hagee received emails with the subject line, including white dude's feedback on your Glowed review, and ones that accuse her of hating white people and racism against whites. She is a Muslim black woman. Writer Kaylee Donaldson shared her thoughts via Twitter about Phoenix's performance and was the subject of nasty comments calling her criticism useless and making fun of her for getting paid to give her opinion on movies. I get made fun of that all the time. You just review movies, man. Oh, well, someone's got to do it. Tanya Renee Stidham's piece on Black culture site The Root also received a slew of inappropriate comments. Because here's the thing. Here's the whole point. This, for one, is exactly what Warner Brothers wants. Make no mistake about that. But two, the movie is not out yet. Right. Peter Sciretta from Slash Film made very similar comments right after the Venice International Film Festival had its screening. And he was at a screening in LA where like a handful of journalists got to check out the movie a little early. And he said the exact same thing. And I called him out for it. And he got super mad that I called him out for it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're trying to say this movie is going to cause a mass shooting. And he goes, well, that's not what it's not what I'm saying, but I'm going to, and he wouldn't put his thoughts out there. He wouldn't explain his thoughts because he goes, well, the people out there haven't seen the movie yet. And I don't want to spoil it for them. I'm like, but you're going to make these claims against the movie that like 99.99% of the people in the world can't even see yet to make up their own mind. You're going to pollute the narrative before it comes out, all because you want to push clicks for your website, but you won't explain your thoughts on it when called out, but you're going to sit there and bitch on Twitter. And that's the problem here. I don't care specifically if you have an issue with this movie. What I want are there to be an actual conversation with people who have seen it and might disagree with you, because that's where things have to be. This pushing of Joker derangement syndrome is just, it's idiotic, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, and it's just the world we live in right now. And it's like, holy crap. Now, the fact that critics, mostly women, are facing the wrath of Joker fans who are already invoking fanboy venom, something we've been accustomed to, see Star Wars, whatever, it doesn't surprise me. Unfortunately, women who write on the internet, threats come at the gig, particularly when the thing you're writing about is comic book movies. In Hagee's case, being called a reverse racist, a thing that does not exist, that's true, it's just called racism, is nothing new for critics of color, especially women critics of color. But it's well, okay, here's the thing. Yolanda Machado from The Wrap tweeted out that the only reviews of the Joker you should listen to are those of women and women of color. And that's it. And I'm like, but if your opinion matters, like if their opinion matters more than other people's opinion, why should I care what you have to say? You clearly think you're better than them. And that may not be the best course of action, especially if you're trying to have a conversation. Going to having these kind of conversations with an ego or a chip on your shoulder is not how you get things done. We've seen this. I'm just saying. Now, but one reader didn't understand why Hagee brought up the race at all in her essay. Remember, Joker's narrative focuses on a white dude's pain. The argument that identity politics shouldn't be discussed over film that director Todd Phillips describes as a character study is literally a 2-hour exploration of one man's identity is preposterous. Well, the thing is, though, identity politics sometimes, when we talk about identity politics, it generally has more of a race tone to it than anything else. Race or class. And in this case, it would definitely be class issue. I could see that being a factor, which then should be explained by perhaps the people. If they're sitting there and they're trying to argue race when really it's class, then that does come across as being wildly disingenuous. And that's kind of what I've been seeing a lot of. When we're looking at this, if you want to remove race from the situation and look at it as a class struggle, a person with a defect who is beaten on and mistreated by other people, who are his skin tone, the same skin color as him, and then he becomes a violent murderous sociopath. That's one aspect of it. But what if it was a black man who was beaten up for having a speech impediment and then knocked around by people he worked with and people he saw on the subway and whatnot, and then he turned murderous? Would this be then that same conversation? And the answer to that is simply no, it wouldn't. But we can see here, the final two things she says here. Some may argue that it's unfair to create fictional character to real life terrorists, or that it shouldn't be the responsibility of the filmmaker to only make safe art that can never be misinterpreted or glorified by violent people. Similarly, critics also have the right to analyze the movie as part of a culture in which it was made. We have every right to express if and why a film makes us uneasy. But given that the Joker discourse is holding up a mirror to the worst parts of the internet, I'm expecting some blowback myself. That's okay. I'm a black woman with a Twitter account and opinions. I'm used to it. Well, here's the thing. I appreciate Kathleen Newman Brimang. I appreciate your thoughts. I do. I'm critical of them because I find them to be wholly unnecessary to the conversation surrounding the film. I think the film should be first viewed by the audience at large rather than by critics who live in coastal cities that are blue check marks on Twitter that are ultimately just trying to paint a narrative, right? When I talked about Joker derangement syndrome, this is exactly what I'm talking about here. I find it very disingenuous to have the conversation surrounding this project. And I don't even know if you've seen the movie or if you're just writing about it. If you haven't seen the movie, but it didn't make it seem like you have seen the movie because you quoted somebody else's review. If you haven't seen the movie and you're using this other person's review as a way to justify your argument that this is a dangerous movie for society, that is so disingenuous and so wrong on so many levels that I can't even begin to criticize it properly. And I don't think I'm wrong in thinking that. I think if you look at the situation as a whole and you see, okay, this movie does have some issues, but I'm going to wait until I can see it before I can judge for myself, rather than just take what somebody else said at face value and then run with it to put out a, quite frankly, damaging, slanderous, and dangerous narrative towards a film, then that's a problem. And like I said, I haven't seen it either. I don't know. A good friend of mine has seen it. We talk about it frequently. And he's like, and this is a dude of Cuban descent. And he's like, I don't get it. Did we not see the same movie? This is some crazy stuff. And this is what's happening right now. Our society is, for some reason, journalists on Twitter, either it's because nothing else is happening right now. No other big movies on the horizon until the beginning of November. This is a controversial film and you guys need clicks and ad revenue. And I can tell you right now, by just talking about this movie, YouTube won't let me make any money off of this. So if you made it this far in the video, consider becoming a channel member, because no, I mean that, like, literally. Every Joker video gets demonetized. I'm not even kidding you. So it's not even about that. It's not even about that, but this is what we're talking about here. If you want to paint this movie as being as being dangerous without having seen it, then how can I trust your word for it? How can I take your word for it? You say you're a black woman on Twitter with opinions. That's fine. And I value and look forward to your opinions, but I would ask that you have the same respect for your audience and make sure your opinion is based on something you've actually seen versus something you read somebody else see. It's like watching a YouTube movie review of like Black Panther and then saying the movie was crap and then going, well, I haven't seen it, but the review said it was bad. Would you take that as valid criticism? I don't think you would, and that's why I think you're full of crap on this one. But anyway, I want to know the rest of you guys' opinions on this, good or bad. If you like the video, thumbs it up. If you dislike the video, thumbs it down, but tell me why in the comments, and I'll be sure to talk to you guys later on. Please subscribe if you like it. Hit that bell if you want. Become a channel member today. It does help out the channel. Like I said, YouTube's demonetized this one. And have a good one, guys, and peace out.